Hi, this is Ryan with Deepwood Handcraft, and I am making this video today kind of as a short instructional for a customer who has asked for me to send them a little bit of lace so that they can put a lanyard on their Canteen Shop Woodcrafter made by Blind Horse Knives. So I've got this lanyard on the bottom of mine. It probably looks a little funny, but it serves multiple purposes. And first of that, when it's on the belt, and you can imagine the belt's going through here, I'll bring this little bit down around here and put it around this button. And then when you've got your belt on, it keeps your knife from coming out of the sheath here. So that's one function that I use it for. Another one is just kind of the traditional lanyard. Keeps that securely in your hand if it should be wet or raining or whatever. And this little bit doesn't really get in the way of anything up in the area of the blade. And then another one is if I was going to be chopping with this thing, you want to grip this thing down towards the bottom of your handle. This gives you a bit of extra something down here to hold on to. Now, I don't make it a point to chop with my knife, but sometimes I do if I'm processing some smaller pieces for firewood and I don't want to pull my axe out, or if I'm processing a branch down and making feather sticks and getting a couple of different sizes of kindling in there for starting a fire, then I will do a little bit of chopping with my knife. But for the most part, I reserve chopping for the axe. I don't subscribe to the batoning thing. I don't baton with my knives or make a practice of that. But anyway, if I was to chop with it, it gives you a little bit of extra extension on your handle, I guess. And this disc provides a little bit of material to kind of just secure it in your hand a little better. So anyway, I'm just going to show how I braid this thing on here, because I can only do so much of it, and then the guy's going to have to finish it off and put this thing on his own knife. So if you can see here from my knots, these knots are all kind of what I would consider a little bit prettier, a little bit cleaner than what you might see on some things, or if you're just throwing the lace through itself and pulling it tight. Kind of get these flat sections where all the lace is kind of laying together and not twisted all different ways, and I'll show you how to do that right quick. So here I've got my antler button already drilled, and I've already cleaned it up and sanded it and filed the edges on it. Drilled a hole big enough to get these 3 pieces of lanyard through, because what I did on this particular lanyard is just a 3-part braid. It's pretty simple. So in order to get this knot, I'm going to put these fingers, or put these flat on my finger so that they're all laying beside each other. And then when I loop those around, these pieces are all laying flat on top of these pieces. And so what I want to do is get these through this hole in the same order that they're laying on top of it, if that makes any sense. And then I want to make sure that they stay in that order while I'm pulling it through, so that when I'm done they're not all twisted and tangled, and they all come out pretty clean laying next to each other. So when I'm pulling this thing tight, I obviously want to have enough lace to do the braid, so what I'm going to do is push them towards the end of this instead of just pulling the whole thing through. And then as you push it up a little bit, you might want to clean it up a little bit and then pull it through in the order that it's going until you've got all of them nice and tight. And then I'll come back down here and I'll just keep it clean while you're going, and that way you don't have to undo it and redo it if you're really desiring this effect. of a clean, pretty knot on the end of your work there. And then again, if you don't care about what it looks like, then obviously it's not worth the trouble to you, then don't worry about it. Just do whatever. It's not like you gain anything by doing this way. It just, in my opinion, looks better, looks cleaner when you're done. And so I'd call that done pretty well enough. You just make sure it's tight. And then this also helps with the braiding because you want these to be kind of beside each other when you start the braid. So now I'll go on and snip these off nice and neat at the end here. And that's not a perfect example here, but you kind of get the idea. So then I'm going to pull this button all the way down to rest tight against that knot. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that these are kind of straight in here again. You got flat side up so that the braid looks good. So a 3-part braid. It's going to be easier if you have something to, like a little nail or a safety pin or something to hold this down. But I haven't really done that here, so I'm just going to have to imagine that that happened. It's a lot easier to do though if you secure this in so it's not just flopping around on you. So a 3-part braid is easy. If you're in paracord at all, you're doing cobra weaves and all that stuff, then this is going to be simple. And all you got to do is take the outside one and cross it over and bring it to the inside. Then do the same thing with the other side. Cross it over, bring it in. Alternating sides while you go. Cross it over, bring it in. Cross it over, bring it in. Cross it over, bring it in. Now I like to make sure this stuff is tight while I go, so I'll pull each of these tight so that when I'm done, there's no loosey-goosey on the end. So that the outside one always becomes the middle one. And you're always crossing the outside one over or under, I guess in this case, the middle one. Now I'm being careful to keep the outside or the inside of the lace, this slick part out being the outside, this being the inside, so that it's not twisting around on itself. It's going to look a lot better in the end if it's all kind of uniform. So you just keep on going with that until you've got enough length on there. It's not really a difficult thing to do, obviously. Little girls do it daily. So you get the idea. You want to keep it tight so nothing's loosey-goosey. And now once I've got about, let's say that's probably about good, then what's going to happen is you're going to get these 3 pieces through the hole, and you're going to want to do it all at the same time. Might involve a bit of twisting it in there, and you might need some pliers to grab on once it comes through the other side to pull it through. But once you get those through, all you're going to do is continue braiding that until you've got the length. You know, I've got this set up so that it goes around my thumb. And all this piece is just an extra piece that's been tied around to itself to give me a loop for my thumb. And then I've pulled the 2 ends that are left, one through each side of this braid, And then on this side I've just tied it so that it stays there. Now I did this on my knife probably about a year ago, and this hasn't come loose on me, or I haven't had any problems with it whatsoever. And the reason for that is I oil all my lace, and that's why it looks so dark. This isn't black, it's actually dark brown, and it'll lighten up a little bit. But this has been treated with Aussie leather conditioner, which is kind of like a grease, beeswax base, something or other. And what that does is when you make knots with that stuff, it's actually quite a chore to get it undone. It holds pretty tight. Like I said, I haven't had any problems with this. There's other ways that you could probably do it, but this is the way that I did it, and it's worked wonderfully for me. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie this thing off with some sinew, put it in the mailbox and send it on to him. And hopefully that was enough of a video that you'll be able to put it through the lanyard hole and continue braiding it. And then when you're done, you got the length. You just want to, this is the same knot right here that I put on the end. And when you tie that, you're going to want to come over top of what you've already braided a little bit, and then when you're pulling the knot tight, you want to end up, you know, pretty much towards the end of this thing so that your knot doesn't end up down here and you've got all this loose stuff going on, because then your whole braid's going to loosen up on itself. So it might take a couple of tries to get it right or whatever, but if it's worth doing to you, then it's worth doing it right in my opinion. So that's it. That's what it looks like when it's done. Might not be everyone's flavor. It is my flavor, so I'm going to keep it on there. It's pretty functional, serves a few different functions, keeps it locked in the sheath, gives a little bit of extra material if you're going to chop with it, and gives you a lanyard the way that, in my opinion, a lanyard should be used. And that's not to loop around your wrist, but to loop around your hand. Keeps your hand tight to the handle. So that's that. You can pick this knife up at www.canteenshop.com. It's made by Blind Horse Knives, and in my opinion it's a pretty exceptional knife. You can check out the specs online. But I've been pretty happy with it so far. So anyway, that's that, and that's it for me, so have a nice day.